ever since they were first introduced in the series, I've always had the thought process that the Gorosei were not just normal celestial dragons. I've always said that they were powerhouses and they would be one of the final, if not truly the final challenge for Luffy and his allies. Of course, this was wild speculation, as any theory is, until it's proven correct. And by chapter 1085, I am right. To the naysayers, I have Oda on speed dial. I don't know what you want me to say, but what I can say is now that, like any other theorizer, that I've gotten one theory right, it's time to jump on, double down, and wildly speculate what each of the Gorosei's powers are. Now, before I get into my wild speculation, let me just say, if you like me, if you like my content, and if you like One Piece or any anime really, make sure to subscribe, like, and smash the notification bell like Luffy does in Skypiea, because there's a lot more anime manga content coming your way in the future. Let's get into it. Now, when discussing the Gorosei, obviously it's a very hard thing to do because we only know Saturn's name, so I will be using descriptive features for each individual. However, at the same time, we are also working from the panel where they are initially seen, not the silhouettes, that's important, when they're initially seen around Cobra from left to right, okay? We all on the same page. Good. Now, looking at Saturn, we see he has horns. Okay, well, right away you're thinking bull or some type of, like, Oni. I've seen people wildly speculate already online that the skull of Onigashima is what he's turning into. I don't see it. I feel like that is too just weird, but that's just me. Now, I think a much more realistic option, if you don't like what I'm about to say, would be that he is some sort of, like, Taurus, you know, like the constellation. He's some sort of fruit and revolving around that. That's boring, right? The proper answer here, because I'm the one saying it, is the Bull Demon King. And you might say, who's the Bull Demon King? Well, if you're looking at the Journey of the West, there is a primary antagonist in the story, and depending on the depiction of what you are reading, he may really be the primary antagonist. The Bull Demon King obviously being an antagonist to Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong obviously being the Monkey King. Luffy wants to be the Pirate King, who Monkey D. Luffy. I don't know. Again, wild speculation, and honestly, going in, I thought I would be most confident about his, but I'm honestly least confident now, which is very strange. But I think it is a safe bet, and we will see his very, very soon return to Egghead. I'm sure it will be the next 3 or 4 chapters, that he will have the Ox Fruit model Bull Demon King, because what fits the Celestial Dragons, and much less the Elder of the Celestial Dragons, than a title that would presume Sage who pacifies heaven. So immediately to the right of Saturn, we have who we all just kind of agree to be the youngest elder. This one, I'm not gonna lie, this one caused me great conflict. I thought this would eventually just be chalked up to an oopsie daisy. I didn't know this one. Sorry guys, couldn't think of a theory, couldn't come up with anything out of my head until like the third time I read this chapter. And the third time I read this chapter, I noticed he actually acknowledges Sabo is about to attack in a panel immediately after Cobra has been stabbed. And obviously, while Eam did not need him, that was my cue that he moved his placement from being the one immediately next to Saturn to being the one in the middle. So, looking at the creature in the middle, what can we determine? Absolutely nothing. He is big. That's all we got. And that is the factor that is all we had, or at least that's all we really had, until I tried to look more at the panel. And, you know, the more I look at the panel, the more I really consider, okay, well, why does his arm look like that? It's slightly warped. And you go into the next silhouette and they're all screaming, while the art design portrays them all being slightly different. His is almost like the Scream. You know, his face is like meshed around, and I started thinking, well, maybe he's not just a giant. Maybe he's some type of like homunculus. But I didn't like that, and it didn't really make sense why he was so big then in that case. So I tabled that. I tabled the homunculus discussion and went back and just looked through every instance in mythology that I could find of a giant. I think I read 50 folk stories I have never heard of before, just ever. I depictions in art and everything. I looked around so much, and I was about to give up. I was about to give up, call it quits, and just say, guys, there was nothing here on this one, until I stumbled upon the Japanese mythology of the yokai Daidara Boji. Daidara Boji is a giant yokai who, similar to this silhouette, is distorted. His body, while is very muscular, is also bent and contorted. and his muscles look like they almost go in like the wrong way, just like we see this youngest elder silhouette when he's crawling down the throne in his arm. His arm seems weird, like it's not, it doesn't look fully right, but it doesn't necessarily look wrong either. It's very interesting. And then when I stumbled upon Dai Darabochi in the depictions of him and the way he looked, he has this warped mouth. I instantly knew it was a light bulb moment. I mean, I looked at it, and he's known to be so giant that his footprints would make lakes and ponds. And in one legend, he even weighed Mount Fuji against Mount Tsukubai, and then he ended up splitting Tsukubai. So he is obviously a creature of great strength. And that, combined with his size, combined with the fact that he is a bald head and his weird nose, it just all started to click. It just all started to click. Again, jumping on the fact of it was not just a demon. He is not just a normal devil fruit. It is a demon devil fruit. And thus, I think the youngest elder has the human fruit model, Dai Darabochi. Next for the Gorosei member that I know I'm most excited about because he has a sword, and like any antagonist in the series that has a sword, there are implications that come with that. I like the way he looks. I like the fact that he doesn't wear the suit like the other elders. He's different. You know, he dresses like an old samurai or a monk. One of the few times we've seen him, he's very meticulous. He was cleaning his blade. I want to know more about the blade. I want to know more about his actual strengths, but that's not what we're talking about. We're only speaking about the devil fruit. Now, if we would have seen this scene of Cobra prior to Egghead, if we would have seen it prior to Egghead, I would just say, oh, he has a mythical Zoan type. Easy. He has the cloud halo. It makes sense. Now, we know that if you just awaken your Zoan, Lucci, you get the cloud halo. Now, I still think he has a mythical Zoan, but I know a lot of people are going to be making claims against me on this because you can just say he is an awoken fruit. But, again, all he has is a longer neck. It's kind of hard to describe what fruit that would just be, so I took another step back and I wanted to acknowledge what parallels are there, what type of situations he can be put in with his fight against Zoro. So let's break it down. Obviously, Zoro's strongest move is his 9-sword style, Ashura. Ashura, in the Hindi faith, is the rivals of the Deva being the heavenly divine and beings of excellence. Well, while Luffy's fruit is not called the human fruit, as it was highly theorized near the end, there are a lot of similarities of what Hanuman can do that Luffy can do. Thus, I think it's safe to say Oda probably pulled some of Hanuman's abilities, who is an avatar of Shiva, to make Luffy's fruit. So, right there, those are 2 Deva that are off the books. Again, there's another Deva named Buddha. I can't imagine there would be more than one human Buddha fruit, since Sengoku has it, even though if it's not the same Buddha, again, I'm not a member of the faith, I don't know for sure. I can't imagine it is, but it could be. Regardless, we're not going to have 2 Buddha fruits. That wouldn't make sense. So, looking at that, we now have 3 Deva that have been excluded from what could be this human fruit model Deva. Now, I'm going to reference another theory. With the moment we knew Saturn's name, it started to be hypothesized that, okay, well, maybe they all are saints that have corresponding names of planets. And every single time, if I can find the visual, I'll show it, that I saw it, the one that was correlating to Mars was thought to be the swordsman elder, the elder we have in this situation. And there is a Deva that correlates to Mars. His name is Mangala. He, while is slightly different than how we've been portrayed to see this man, is the Deva for anger and war and aggression. All things that a warrior would have. Maybe before he was an old man, that is how he was. He was vicious. But regardless, looking at that, the story of Mangala, this Deva that would represent Mars, if you do not know, Mangala was brought about to Earth to help a goddess of the cosmos who was kidnapped return to the cosmos. Almost like a certain swordsman, if he was a member from the Void Century, would have put Eam back into power in the cosmos, cosmos being heaven, heaven being the land of the celestial dragons, and their raised levels above it being the elders, and then Eam being Eam. I think a very strong claim gets to be made then that the parallels of this fight do exist. So him being Mangala, him, while maybe not being as aggressive and angry and war-driven as he was in his younger years, he was a warrior. We've never seen a celestial dragon willingly carry around a sword outside of him. He does not dress like other celestial dragons. He, I would argue, does not see himself as a celestial dragon, but as a warrior who is a celestial dragon. So I think wholeheartedly, while I cannot justify his powers with this, and of course Oda may change the name, but I feel like just like Luffy's fruit being very, very similar to Hanuman's abilities, I believe his fruit will be very, very similar to the powers that Mangala has, the Deva that correlates to Mars, the Deva that correlates to anger and aggression, the things a warrior would have, and thus the Deva that would fight against Ashura, the king of hell, who has a sword, who will be his opponent in Zoro. I think there's just enough similarities there to where I can confidently say he does have the human fruit model Mangala. For this next elder, the first on the middle right is honestly the one that's, looking at descriptive features, I mean, talking about that with every single one of these, has the most descriptive of features. I mean, you look at that and you can tell exactly what it is. A bird. Okay, well, that makes it easy. He's a mythical bird, more than likely. It's not just going to have some weak bird type fruit for the elder. Well, let's look at all the mythical birds. Surprisingly, not as many as you would think. Most of them are just renditions of the phoenix. And of course, we're not gonna have another phoenix fruit. Marco's still alive and well. Now, I have seen some theories that he kind of looks like an albatross, and thus, what if he's Morgan? And while I love the idea that the elders have someone so deep into the media inside that they are the media, from a controlling aspect, there's a lot there that I just think is really interesting, but I don't see it. His beak looks different. There's some other features that just make him look different than Big News. So I don't think he's Morgan. However, that is a fun theory to run with. Now, what I believe him to be is, while you look at him, you can notice kind of like a comb that like a chicken or a rooster would have under his beak and over his head, while also his beak is curved slightly. Thus, it does mean those are distinguishing features. Of course, he also has wings, so there are aspects there that you really can combine into deciding what it would be. And while the phoenix is off the table, obviously, there is another demon-like mythical bird that very much so is on the table and has a comb, has a curved beak, and is fitting many of the features. And while aspects of just a terrifying looking monster, also that it fits the bill, no pun intended, and that is the cockatrice. The cockatrice is obviously, a mythical creature that combines the head of a chicken with either wyvern or bird-like wings and a dragon-like tail. So, while we didn't see his lower body, I think it's a very safe bet he is half dragon, half chicken, and while most renditions of the cockatrice also have dragon wings or wyvern wings, his do have bird wings, and that is a rendition of the cockatrice, so it's not like it's off the table because he has feathered wings. So wholeheartedly, I believe the pointy mustache aimed down elder has the bird fruit model cockatrice. Finally, for the last Gorosei, the one on the far right, the one with the curly mustache, I'm going to be honest. While I have not been defeated by this one, it has destroyed the theory that they're all mythical Zoan. But, again, has not defeated me. I know exactly what he is. But, again, it's not a mythical Zoan. Or if it is, it would be a stretch to call it that. So while looking at this, let's just go through my entire thought process. Him being a mythical Zoan, he obviously is a single-horned creature. There's a single-horned creature throughout all of folklore and mythology. It's the unicorn. It's always the unicorn. It doesn't matter where you look, you're going to be pointed towards the direction of the unicorn. But this is my issue, right? The unicorn doesn't make sense for the celestial dragons, forgetting the fact of he has a curved horn, and all unicorns have a straight horn. Even if it's twisted, it is straight. He has a very curved horn. The unicorn doesn't make any sense for a celestial dragon. I mean, unicorns mean purity and love and friendship, and I mean, I guess you could say the Gorosei are probably friends, but I don't know if that. I don't know. For a celestial dragon to have a unicorn-based fruit, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So you would think, okay, well, what could he be then, right? Because if you look at renditions of the unicorn, in more European styles, it is the standard horse. In more Asian styles, it's like based on a deer almost. But none of them, again, have the curved horn that he seems to have and is very apparent in both the panels that his silhouette's presented in. So it leads me to think of one thing. Well, there's another origination of the unicorn It's the rhino. Rhinos do have one curved horn, but that feels basic and stupid, and I don't want one of the elders to have a rhino just as his power. That's stupid. He is the rhino fruit. However, there is a mythical Zoan option here. There is. The ring the bell. It's not over yet. You know, we're still here fighting. It could be a unicorn model, even though I don't say it is. So let me break it down. While researching the rhino, I did determine that there is an ancient variant of the rhino. It's like it's not fully a woolly rhino, and it's about 4 times bigger than what you think a rhino probably is size-wise. It's called an elasmotherium. It has a single long curved horn. He has the same tiny ears. His silhouette is presented at, and while not being a mythical Zoan, an ancient type Zoan could also very much so make sense for the elders. So, yeah, I mean, while it's not perfect and doesn't match my theory that they are all also mythical Zoans, you can't win them all. You can't win them all. But I can say confidently, that is what he is. So, the last curly mustached elder has the rhino fruit model Elasmotherium. It doesn't even open the book to begin discussing Imsama and all we've seen from them, but at the end of the day, that's it. That's the Gorosei. That's their powers. I mean, that's just one theorizer's speculation of what it could be. However, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree, if you think I'm stupid, if you think I'm a genius. Let me know. And if you guys have any theories yourselves, drop them in the comments. Let me read them. I love interacting with people and seeing where others think Oda's taking his story and what could be happening. Again, there's still a lot to be discussed, and hopefully when Egghead returns very soon, we'll see Saturn, and I can prove that he has the Bull Demon King fruit. But until that point, that is just one speculator's wild opinion. And yeah, I'm the Fat Kage. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.